Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 81 of the Level Flight podcast. Just me and Elliott today. Connor is at the game still. He is going to be stuck in the press box for a while because it was a late start, and he figured we should probably go ahead rather than trying to record at midnight. It is, just to give you some context, though, it is currently 11:02 p.m.
Yeah.
Just watched the Jets snap their 6-game losing streak against the LA Kings. I mean, before we really get into any of the game, firstly, Elliott, how are you doing, and what did you think of things?
I'm good. We're getting towards the end of the semester, just trying to finish up some schoolwork. But that was a really, really good game. Like, even if you were a casual, I think you would have enjoyed that game. The game ends 4-3. You get 7 goals. You had an eventful second period where the Jets and the Kings it was one after the other. It was just pound for pound, goal for goal. It was a really good game. And I think somebody, and we're going to talk about them right away, had their legacy game tonight. Or hopefully it ends up being their legacy game and a turning point in their season.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it at length on LFP Live last Sunday, where we needed to see how the lines were going to shake out because things got a little bit weird at the end there. That ended up seeing reuniting of Ehlers, Scheifele, Vilardi, and then they had Connor, Monahan, Toffoli on that second line, and so we were waiting for morning skate and those line rushes to hit. I remember we were in class this morning, and Connor brought up a good point where he goes, to be honest with you, at least for the time being, like those morning skate line rushes felt like they were kind of defining the next little stretch run they were going to go on. Because if you come out and it's just bonus going back to 81-55, that kind of says a lot about where the team is at and where they will be going. But we started with the lines that everyone was calling for, and it ended up paying off. And to be honest with you, I feel like everyone was talking about that top line, Ehlers, Scheifele, Vilardi, as like that's going to be the line to really spark everything. Tonight was a different story. It was the second line, which wasn't even what you were anticipating because you did have Kyle Connor and Sean Monahan paired together, but Cole Perfetti filled in on the wing in Tyler Toffoli's absence because he was a little sick. So he slotted right in there, and let me tell you, Cole Perfetti, as you said, I think you could almost classify it as an early career legacy game because he stepped in and played the best game I've ever seen him play. Dropped an F-bomb in the intermission interview, and then just continued to work super hard. And it is now a conversation as to what happens next game because Kyle Connor had 3 assists. Perfetti had 2 goals and an assist. Monahan had a goal and an assist. How could you rationalize splitting that trio up after they just absolutely carved up the Kings? Like it is one of the best performances from a line that we've seen. And we mentioned it on LFP Live that when you have the amount of talent that is spread out, if you have those ideal lines, if that top line doesn't have as good of a game as you're anticipating, which they had a good start and then kind of fell off a little bit, but a lot of it was just not being able to generate the chances, but they still had the puck. But Elliott, I wanted to know your thoughts on sort of what you saw from those new look lines or old look lines that are finally back.
I thought obviously the second line was fantastic tonight. I thought that their chemistry, especially with Josh Morrissey, was just unrivaled tonight. Obviously they get a couple of goals, they get some chances. I thought Cole Perfetti and Kyle Connor were finding each other really well, and Monahan just is a really good piece to that line. Like obviously he's going to win faceoffs. He's going to be not the best defender, and he's going to be a little bit more offensive. But for a line with a bunch of with Kyle Connor, who's an all offense guy, and Perfetti, who's got a really good offensive touch, but also has that two-way game, I think really fits well. And realistically, I know there's probably going to be some because some criticism for the first line tonight. I actually thought that they were perfectly fine. Like Brian and I were chatting before the show got going, and I kind of was like, you know what? I think that the first line that yes, they really only had that stretch in the second period where they were on the ice for a long. Vilardi especially was on the ice for a long time, where they were just battling, throwing pucks at the net. They had multiple opportunities. If Vilardi fell on the ground, whacked at the puck with his stick, just trying to get it towards the net. And I thought with that, they were really good. And then obviously, right at the end of the game, about 3.5 minutes left, they entered the zone. They didn't leave the zone until about minute and 30 left. Like they chewed off a minute and a half a clock. Like the Kings really didn't have much time to pull the goalie, get anything set up. And so I thought the first line, as much as they didn't generate for the entire game, when they were working the puck along the boards, they were really good with possession, and they didn't get many opportunities because the Kings did a really good job of minimizing that line. But I thought when they did get opportunities, they looked really, really, really dangerous. So I think that top six obviously should stay, depending on what happens with Toffoli. Like if he's sick and can't go again Thursday, then hey, just roll him back again. But even then, you gotta make it work somehow. I don't know how you make it work, but you need to figure out a way to keep that top six. And obviously, we have seen a Niederreiter, Lowry, Toffoli line this year a couple times when Bonus has done the line blender. So it's not like he's opposed to doing it. I just don't know if it happens, but I think they at least need to try it. And I think that Toffoli's style of play, where he's a little bit more of a bullish sniper, I think might be a little bit better. But just sticking back to the top six, I thought obviously the second line was better tonight than the first line, but I still think you can't knock the first line. I thought they were great.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it too, where the whole what happens next. Wrench may have been thrown into that because Nino Niederreiter left the game late in the third after
Yes.
no one could like really tell what happened, but he came out of a scrum holding like the back of his leg near like down by his ankle, and then went down the tunnel and kind of just like fell over, and it was
Which
just
was a little scary.
very ambiguous as to what actually happened. But if he's out for any period of time, then there is a natural fit there to just put Toffoli with Lowry because he's not exactly what Niederreiter is, but there are similar aspects to their game that I think would work sort of cohesively.
Yeah. I did want to just say 4 minutes ago, as if we were recording, I just went to go check Twitter to see if there'd been an update. The only person who has given an update is Scott Billick. He got a response from Rick Bonus saying that Nino Niederreiter needed a few stitches to repair a cut on his leg. So you were correct. He did get a skate to the back of the leg and so Scott explains why he exited the game midway through the third. So hopefully it's just a few stitches and that cut didn't go any further, because where he was grabbing at was a very, very dangerous area for somebody, especially if they get a skate there. So as far as I know, he just said a few stitches. So hopefully then he's good to go for Thursday.
Yeah, that's the big thing. But at least we know now that there's some insurance that if there's ever like a situation where someone's banged up. But no, it was nice to just see a line that had Kyle Connor on it that didn't have Mark Scheifele as the center and also find the success.
Yeah.
Because I don't recall the last time we saw a line when Kyle Connor's been healthy that doesn't include the two of them together.
Yeah.
So, color me surprised that it happened at all, but I'm so happy that they've finally, gone to this and they won. So I can only assume that they're going to stick with it almost in its entirety. Obviously, the whole Toffoli situation will monitor that, and that is the weird thing with the schedule this week is our Wednesday episode for the first time in a long time will have no game content to pull from. And it'll largely be a preview of the next one. So
maybe a quiz. Just kidding.
Hey, listen, we might need to find some content to work with. So who knows? There's definitely still a few more talking points from the game, but because we're going to be a little bit shorter on this episode, just because it is just the one game and as fun as it was, there's only so many talking points that you can sort of rehash. We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to hear from DraftKings, our sponsor, as always. So we'll be right back after this word from our sponsor. We know hockey games move fast, but with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can score faster than anything happening on the ice. This week, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code THPN. New customers bet $5 on the NHL and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, licensee partner Golden Nugget Lake Charles. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved. And welcome back into episode 81 of the Level Flight podcast. Thanks again, as always, to DraftKings for sponsoring us. Just a couple more things I want to touch on before we get out of here because it is late. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I have a cold. I would like to sleep. I want to take some NyQuil and just head on off into bed. I do just want to touch on something that I was a little bit concerned with. I mean, it hasn't happened in a while, but Elliott, I don't know about you. It didn't look like Laurent Brossoit was entirely comfortable in net tonight.
No, I agree. There especially in that second period. There was at one point, I can't remember what the time frame was, but there was even a play like this is just a sense. This is kind of a play that when this stuff happens, I kind of go, okay, I don't think this goalie is like in his full mindset, regular mindset tonight. Was when one of the Kings players, Brossoit, just made a save. Puck went into behind the net, kind of near the corner, and whatever Kings player was just threw the puck on net again, and Brossoit like flipped and turned around and fell, and like almost was doing a pad stack, and like it was not a on purpose pad stack, like it was a complete like, oh god, I fell, now I'm just going to try to cover as much of the net as possible, and it came right through the blue paint and went and hit the opposite boards. That was kind of a play where I was like, okay, I don't like. Normally that happens yes, it happens in scramble situations, but it really is kind of common when you see a goalie who's just not on his game that night. And then really on a couple of the saves, I wasn't too sure if he was going to make like the run right before Cole Perfetti's 4-3 goal on the shorthanded. That second breakaway, I thought he wasn't going to have. And even the, was it the Kopitar goal that he kind of, he went to go make the glove save and he kind of went to go close the glove and it just beat him, and he kind of and he did the whole like, do I have a hole in my glove thing, because he kind of looked at his glove, and I watched the replay a couple times and he actually went and like closed his trapper to be like, oh, how did I, and it's like, okay, well, you may not be in the ninth space, but I think what we need to also remember is that Connor, he was in a rhythm, and then Connor Hellebuck had like 4 games, like he had 2 in a row, like a back-to-back plus like 4 in a row without him playing. Like that was his first game action in a little bit because Connor Hellebuck was like on a bad stretch, and so he just wanted to keep playing, just to get back in rhythm. So I want to take it with a grain of salt because he, for the most part, other than his first like 2 games this year, has been fantastic. But I just don't think he was really, not that he was not in the right mindset tonight is probably not the best way to put it, but I just don't think he was on his game like we have seen him. He looked more like early season Brossoit than anything.
Yeah, and I'm like the first goal, obviously, it almost seemed like he lost his net a little bit, but I'm not entirely certain I have any concerns about the fact that, it was a little bit more of a rough game for him, just because by the end of
Time
it,
frame.
Yeah, exactly. And then also, like, he was fine in the third. Like, there was some decent saves there, and the first and second were a little bit concerning, but he kind of rallied at the end there and really sort of made the best out of a game that was a little bit tough on him. But um, I, yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned about it going forward. But let's just quickly touch on a very interesting fact that um, I didn't anticipate going into tonight, and that was the fact that Kyle Connor put up 3 assists,
He's a playmaker.
apparently. That's why I was actually like I've mentioned this. You could probably find multiple episodes where I talked about how having some form of playmaking ability around Kyle Connor makes him more dynamic as a player. And having both Monahan and Perfetti, especially Perfetti, because I talked about at length why I think Perfetti and Connor are a great fit together.
Mhm.
Um, it looked far more dynamic. Like there were still a lot of things that I was concerned about with Connor's game because you know a lot of the things he does I don't necessarily agree with, but I digress. Um, I was really impressed though with the playmaking ability when he's not just trying to find the open space for Mark Scheifele to pass to him.
Mhm.
But no, like it's not really a talking point per se. I thought it was just interesting where he's usually the one getting set up, but he was doing the assist work tonight, and I don't know if it's something that we keep watching, further down the line here, but to me that is absolutely imperative for like a line with him to succeed. Because if
Yeah.
he's the only one doing the shooting and then not doing a whole lot else, that line's not going to do very well.
Well, you say that and you look at him with 55, right? Like all Kyle Connor does when he plays with Mark Scheifele is shoot the puck. He doesn't do anything else. Mark Scheifele's like, "No, I'm going to keep throwing you the puck and you're just going to keep shooting it." I think a line of Perfetti, who isn't a crazy shooter, but he will shoot the puck. If he look at the fourth goal tonight, he got Neil Pionk, drew some defenders, he dropped it right back. Perfetti took a couple strides and went, "Oh well, okay, well I'm just gonna shoot the puck if you're not gonna like if you're gonna keep giving me space here." So right, you look. I know Kyle Connor isn't involved in that goal, but I think with him on the line with especially someone like Monahan who does like to shoot the puck and will command a little bit of the puck a little bit more than yes, a Mark Scheifele commands it, but he's trying to get rid of it. He hasn't really been normal Kyle Connor or sorry, excuse me, normal Mark Scheifele where he wants to shoot the puck very often. So just with the way that players are playing this year, I think a line with a more so of a passer in Perfetti, who does want to get the puck to a shooter in Kyle Connor, but another guy in Sean Monahan who will pass and also likes to shoot it a little bit more, I think means that Kyle Connor has to be a little bit more of a passer. And we saw that tonight. And I think it was really good for that line just because he needed Kyle Connor, as Connor had put it this morning. He was telling us in class, I believe. I don't remember what the time frame was, but he had 2 assists and it was I know plus minus isn't a huge stat, but when it's minus 10, it's kind of telling about how a player's been playing recently. And so for him to add, yes, maybe not a goal, but another 3 assists and where he is a positive per se. Actually, I believe he was a negative or a -1, I think, because I think they were on the ice for 3 goals. But either way, he contributes for 2 of them and 2 important goals. I think is a net positive in my mind. So I think it is something to monitor because I just think that the way that Cal Connor is playing this year, he needs different types of line mates. And I think this line currently fits him a little bit better, even than if it's as much as we saw it and it worked pretty good having Toffoli instead of Perfetti. I just think Perfetti's play style for Kyle Connor is better.
100%. And it's something I want to really keep an eye on going forward. Speaking of which, just before we head out of here, without too much detail, because this is essentially going to be the entire episode on Wednesday, just quickly, what are you sort of looking for, a few days out from, this game against Calgary on Thursday?
Realistically, like they and I said this to you before we started. As much as I wanted to say the Jets weren't playing well, they were playing well. They just weren't getting puck bounces, and they just couldn't put the puck in the net. They put in 4 tonight. It's a win. And I just think that they need to just keep the momentum going. Calgary is more like a Ottawa, where they're not a great team, but they're not a bottom feeder team. They're a middle of the pack non-playoff team. So you need to treat them like they're a playoff team so that you can get the result that you want. You cannot underestimate them. You're not going to get away with not playing well and still winning the game against the Calgary. Look what happened against Ottawa. The Jets played good, but not good enough. They weren't where they were tonight, and they lost the game. They need to bring what they brought tonight and do it all over again on Thursday. So I just think if they, obviously, I think in Ehlers, Scheifele, Vilardi line does better in a game on Thursday, just because I don't know. I just feel like they're going to have a better game. Like we've seen them play better more than worse. So I would expect that they have a better game. And I don't know. I think that maybe keeping Perfetti in the lineup and telling Toffoli not to rush back, I think is also a play. I think that's something else I'm watching, is if Perfetti stays in the top 6 and continues to get opportunities. Other than that, maybe switching up the D pairs. I was looking at hockey stat cards before we started, and Josh Morrissey and Neil Pionk, again, was not a great pairing, as we know that they aren't. So I think going back to the same D pairs and keeping the same forward lines from tonight would be the best recipe for a win.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing for me is it's just looking at these guys meshing. And the biggest thing for me, I think, on Thursday is seeing if that top line can be the top line that we saw, 4 months ago. And I mean, that's kind of my sole focus, is because, like, if that line gets going along with that second line, it's truly, I don't know many teams that can match up against that, but um, that's going to be something that we're going to discuss more at length going forward. We'll also know more on sort of Tyler Toffoli's status, because that's the thing. He's got a few days here that, depending on how sick he is, it's going to be a little bit easier for him to sort of rest up.
And Nino Niederreiter,
Yes.
As I'm seeing some things here, they're now saying that he's had a couple stitches, but now Rick Bowness is now saying, now that I've got a full quote, Bowness is now saying that he is unclear about his potentiality for Thursday. So I think he's playing it safe, and I would assume Niederreiter plays if it's just a couple stitches, but he's not being clear about. He's normally pretty clear about if a player's ready to go for Thursday, he would say it. So it could be worse than it is, but I would just say stay glued to social, stay glued to LFP on Twitter, on Instagram. We will most likely make a post about it, or we'll have one of our retweets.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, as Elliott said, stay glued to all of our socials. If you're not following us, please do.
What are you doing?
Exactly. Exactly. But no, I think that's a great place to sort of wrap it up for tonight. Go get some rest. Jets have a few days off here, a couple concerts rolling through.
Yeah.
No Con tomorrow night, who is actually at the game tonight.
Yeah, maybe that's what they want.
Yeah, they are officially 1-0 with Noah Khan in attendance. So I don't know, but no, we'll wrap things up here, and we'll talk more about the Thursday game on the Thursday episode. So for myself and from Elliott, thanks for everyone for listening. Subscribe and like the video on YouTube. It's our YouTube channel especially has been doing numbers recently, so join in the fun. And as always, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you later this week.
Peace.